this began, I was just shy of my 23rd birthday. I want to make it clear that I was a completely different person back then. Over time, I'd become less hard-headed. When I was 22, I met a man on the internet. Let's just call him Alex. He was 40 when we first started chatting. I didn't realize at the time that someone his age could be as different as he was. I used to think he was pretty cool, and we quickly became close friends, or at least that's how I felt. He was a good listener and would tell me all sorts of random tales. The way he expressed himself was always a bit odd, as if we were in a live-action game of fantasy. We messaged each other every day. Back then, I was dating someone, and Alex even became friends with my boyfriend. But then, for about a year, we stopped communicating. One day, out of the blue, he sent me a text. He said he had lost all his contacts except for mine. For some reason, he sent me a picture of my contact details on his phone, a photo I had previously sent him. I didn't think much of it, and our friendship seemed to pick up right where it left off. He was going through a divorce at the time, and I became his shoulder to lean on, or so he put it. He stated that there were certain boundaries he didn't want to cross, and we started having regular phone chats. He began hinting that he wanted my help in spying on his soon-to-be ex-wife, as she wouldn't recognize me. He was overly eager to find out who she was living with. This was the first warning sign that I actually acknowledged as such. Someone warned me that he was a bit off and that I should avoid him. But what did I do? I kept talking to him, despite being told not to. Again, he mentioned the boundaries he didn't want to cross. The second warning sign was related to religion. He was involved in a controversial group, but he never tried to make me join. However, he always wanted me to accompany him for moral support during their meetings and audits. I always turned him down. Once again, my friend warned me to stay clear of him, but I didn't pay heed. Soon, Alex wanted to meet in person. I tried to decline as diplomatically as I could, making up reasons like being busy. Eventually, however, I caved and sent him my location. I need to emphasize again that he claimed we were just friends and that there were boundaries he wouldn't cross. I agreed to this, but unlike him, I actually meant it. He turned up at my place on his scooter. I'm a fairly tall woman at 5'7", and this man, now 42, was a whole foot shorter than me. The first thing he did was forcefully kiss me. When I managed to get free from this unwanted kiss, he studied my face and commented, "I just wanted to make sure you were real," as if my presence in the driveway wasn't proof enough. I felt really uncomfortable, but since I was at my parents' house, I felt safe enough. He tried to convince me to ride on his scooter with him, but I repeatedly declined. Then, my little sister, who was 17 at the time, came outside. He immediately befriended her and convinced her to go for a ride. She agreed, so he took her around the neighborhood and brought her back. At this point, I decided it was time for him to leave. We still maintained contact, but he started to become very controlling despite the fact that I was still dating someone else. Then, he began asking for my younger sister's phone number, discussing what he'd like to do with both of us. I really wanted to cut contact with him, but by then, I was too afraid since I had given him my address, and he knew where my younger sister lived. Finally, after he bombarded my phone with messages for days, with me responding only to every 20th text, I finally blocked him. Then he started texting my boyfriend, asking about my whereabouts. He insisted on getting my little sister's number, even claiming that I had agreed to give it to him, which was an outright lie. With the messaging app one was using, if you blocked someone, you could still see the messages they sent, but they didn't trigger notifications and didn't show up in your regular text inbox. He sent me 2 lengthy messages, one in English and the other in Spanish, each spanning about 15 pages. He continued to spam my phone and my boyfriend's phone for months on end. Finally, he just vanished. I'm now 28, and fortunately, I haven't heard from him since. I've definitely learned that red flags are there for a reason, and if your instincts tell you to keep your distance, you should listen. I'm 21 years old, a girl, and I've been referred to as fun-sized due to my petite stature. It's a term I use humorously to describe myself, but it also reveals a hint of my fear or discomfort around men who are taller than 5 feet 5 inches. While this may seem irrational to some, it stems from personal experiences and a sense of vulnerability that I have developed over time. Let me take you back to a specific incident that occurred late last year when I was still 20. At that time, all I wanted for Christmas was a boyfriend. So, I decided to try my luck with dating apps. I downloaded a few of them, uploaded some decent photos of myself, and started swiping. It wasn't long before I matched with a guy named Dylan who had this charming gym bro vibe about him. What caught my attention was that he seemed to have his life together and wasn't just some aimless individual. I'll admit, he had a certain level of charisma and knew how to play the game. After chatting for a while, we decided to meet up for a few drinks to see where things would go. On the day of our little date, I took extra effort to look good, and when I saw Dylan, I couldn't deny that he looked handsome too. There was something about him that exuded confidence, like the big, expensive-looking watch he wore on his wrist, which caught my eye. We started off well, vibing with each other and discussing various topics, including our careers. I shared my aspiration of becoming an influencer, perhaps focusing on food content on platforms like TikTok. However, in the midst of our conversation, something peculiar happened. Dylan's focus suddenly shifted from me to a point behind my shoulder. His facial expression changed drastically. One moment, he appeared suave and sexy, and the next, he seemed on the verge of vomiting. Before I could even turn around to see what had caught his attention, I felt a pair of hands in my hair. In the blink of an eye, those hands yanked me backward, causing me to fall off my chair, or rather, I should say, a stool, which sent my head crashing onto the floor. The impact was jarring, leaving me breathless and in considerable pain. The next moments were a blur of agony as I felt repeated strikes landing on my face. One of those blows connected with my nose, resulting in a sickening crunch. It was the most excruciating pain I had ever experienced. It felt like my entire face was engulfed in flames, and I could only curl up into a ball, hoping that the assailant would stop their assault. Amidst the chaos, I could hear screams from the people around me, but the loudest of them all came from a girl. Her wild and furious cries made it clear that she was the one attacking me. I managed to catch a brief glimpse of her before Dylan, the guy I had gone on a date with, dragged her out of the place. Soon, I was surrounded by concerned individuals offering me assistance while someone urgently called 911. To my disbelief, Dylan never returned. It was evident that something was amiss. When the ambulance finally arrived, they took me to the emergency room where the doctors had to take x-rays of my nose to assess the extent of the damage. They also administered pain medication, which left me in a dazed state. The most harrowing part of the ordeal was when they had to set my broken nose. Although it wasn't physically painful due to the medication, I could feel the bones in my nose shifting as they manipulated them into place. It was an unsettling and disgusting sensation. They then packed my nostrils with gauze to keep my nose aligned, leaving me with a muffled voice and a constant reminder of the incident. During the weeks that followed, as my nose healed, I had ample time to wallow in self-pity. Dylan had unmatched me on Tinder, severing our connection, but I couldn't help but be curious about what had transpired. Through a bit of online sleuthing, my friend and I discovered Dylan's private Instagram account. However, when my friend sent him a random follow request, he accepted it. That's when we stumbled upon the truth. The girl who had attacked me was Dylan's girlfriend. She had untagged herself from some of their photos, but there were still a few remaining where they posed together, clearly indicating that they were a couple. In the end, I made the decision to press charges against the girl, leading to her imprisonment. I understand that she, too, may have been a victim in that situation, but any sympathy I might have felt for her vanished the moment she laid her hands on me and shattered my nose. Dylan, too, revealed himself to be nothing more than trash, and I have no doubt that karma will catch up with him eventually. However, it should have been him who received the same violent treatment, not me. I had no inkling that he was in a committed relationship, and if I were to stumble upon my own boyfriend on a date with another girl, I would hope to display a sense of sisterly solidarity and direct my anger towards him, not her. This experience has left a lasting impact on me. It shattered my trust in people and made me more cautious in my interactions, especially when it comes to dating. It has also highlighted the importance of being aware of the potential dangers that can lurk behind seemingly charming individuals. Despite the physical and emotional trauma I endured, I refuse to let this incident define me. I am determined to heal and move forward, reclaiming my confidence and rebuilding my trust in others. I've learned the importance of self-defense, both physically and emotionally, and I'm committed to empowering myself and others so that we never have to endure such senseless violence again. In the end, I believe in justice and the power of standing up for oneself. By pressing charges, I hope to send a message that such actions cannot go unpunished. No one deserves to be subjected to violence simply because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. As I continue to recover and rebuild my life, I hold on to the belief that strength and resilience will guide me through the darkest of times. This happened to me my freshman year of college. Tinder was new, and everyone at my university was on the app. I joined to see what all the fuss was about. Looking through profiles, I found a few guys that were really interesting, and this one guy in particular caught my eye. We'll call him Marcus. I swiped right on Marcus, and we matched. I was excited and kind of giddy because he was super attractive. He messages me, and I got butterflies in my stomach. We message on the app for maybe an hour. Typical conversation is happening. I asked him what he did for a living, and he asked what my major was. Harmless conversation. After a while, he asked for my number so we could text instead of message on the app. I gave it to him. He seemed nice enough. We messaged back and forth for a few days. Lots of flirty conversation and plans to hang out finally occurred. By the fourth day of conversation, he started calling me babe, which gave me mixed feelings. It was cute, but also a little weird. We didn't really know much about each other and had never met. I ignored it and continued on with the conversation. He started saying he wanted to be exclusive and he really wanted to see me in person. He was begging me at this point to come to his apartment to cuddle and watch movies with him and his dog. I told him that our first meet needed to be in public. I would not be going to some stranger's apartment. He said I was overreacting and kept begging. I ignored him for the rest of the night, but the next day he apologized and said he understood and we needed to meet in public. So, we made plans that weekend. The weekend came faster than I expected, and it was the day we were supposed to meet. Something just felt off, and I decided to back out. I texted him apologizing, saying my mom wasn't feeling well and needed me to come home and help her with some house chores. This made him annoyed, and he said, "Your mom is a big girl. If she needs you, she can call you. Just come over and you can leave whenever to go help her. I really want to see and kiss you." I told him no, that I would be staying with my mom that weekend, and that was that. I only lived about 30 minutes from home, so I actually did go home to see my mom that day. After what he said about my mom, I started ignoring him and the texts started rolling in. Text after text. Babe, I'm sorry. Please come over. Babe, I miss you. Are you going to come over? I plan on replying the next day that I was just busy with my mom. Then he started calling me. I had a total of 45 missed calls within a 2-hour period. He left voicemails saying he was sorry and he just missed me and wanted me to call him back. Similar voicemails continued almost the entire time I was home. My roommate texted me shortly after I finished dinner with my mom and asked if we could go out that night. I agreed and went back to my university dorm. Suddenly, the calls from Marcus started to increase again, more texts, voicemails, and he started messaging me again on Tinder, asking why I wasn't replying to him. I wasn't planning on replying until I got a message on Instagram that said, "Why didn't you tell me you were coming back to town tonight?" Getting this message really freaked me out. I replied to him and said, "Sorry, I've been busy with my mom. How did you know that I was back in town?" He said, "Well, I checked your Tinder, of course." Tinder doesn't tell exact locations, but has a within 1 mile message. This really freaked me out, and I messaged him back and said that he was being really creepy. He seriously had to be constantly refreshing my profile to see the distance change. The messages, calls, and voicemails continued. I told him, now apologizing for making me feel weird about him knowing where I was. He was just worried about me. We had been texting for less than a full week. I told my roommate about it, and we decided to stay in that night. The last straw for me was getting a message saying, "Look, I'm really sorry. I'm outside your dorm with flowers and chocolates. Please forgive me." Oh heck no. I called campus security and told them about this guy, and they never found anyone waiting outside any of the doors. I'm assuming he was in his car, waiting for me to reply. I blocked him on all socials, phone number, deleted Tinder, and have never been back on since. I have seen him once out and about in the town, but he never recognized me. Thankfully. Marcus, if you ever read this, I'm glad we never met. Thanks for making me second guess every single guy I find attractive.